Now at 6, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Another cold night expected across the state tonight. Good evening and thanks for joining us for the news at 6. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Bridget Bjorlo, and the wind was really whipping today. So when exactly will it quiet down?
Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank is here now with a look at the forecast and the answer to that question. Rach?
It is tomorrow. We've got it right out of the gate here. We are really excited not only for some relief from the wind, which has just been relentless, but also from the chill as well. And I think tomorrow will be the warmest day of the week so far, which is not too hard to achieve. A wind advisory is in effect until 1 o'clock in the morning with isolated outages possible across the state. Luckily, we really haven't had too many issues today just because we don't have any leaves on the trees. And so it usually takes gusts over 60 miles an hour for outages to become a bigger concern in the wintertime. That being said, even last night as I was driving home from work, I could see some branches that were down in parts of the state. So it doesn't take much. 37 right now for gusts in Meriden and gusts over 40 miles an hour in Torrington. But notice the trend is our friend as we head through the next 12 hours. Those winds will be diminishing. Right now, we're looking at temperatures that are in the 20s, near 30 degrees for the New Haven area, and a wind chill is in the single digits and teens for much of the state. Heading towards daybreak, we won't really see too much change in temperature, so we're kind of holding steady here with numbers in the 20s. And looking at the wind chill tomorrow, not as much of an issue. We've been in the single digits and teens pretty much all week long, and high temperatures will climb close to 40 degrees as we head through the afternoon. And to go with it, lots of sunshine. We're talking about a little bit of light snow as we head into Saturday morning. Your full forecast coming up.
Rachel, thank you. As firefighters in Southern California try to reel in the effects of those devastating wildfires there, fire crews in our state are also working to prevent fires.
Fox 61's Jamel Johnson is in South Killingly, where a house fire almost turned into a disaster. Several department fires responded.
Hey man, be careful with that brush fire. What do you mean? Well, just down there was a huge brush fire that burned almost an acre of land. I mean, if you're not careful with this, it can spread in just a matter of minutes. Firefighter and EMT Robert Dombrowski says these types of fires have become a norm over the last few years.
Normally in the wintertime, you don't see that many, but over the last couple of years, we really haven't had a snow cover. We've had a lot of wind issues. So we do see more and more. The latest brush fire was almost a disaster. Roughly 3/4 of an acre of land were burned between Pike Lane and Jacks Road. It was moving rapidly through, I believe, an open field. This really wasn't all that big. It's just that if you don't get to it in time, then it's going to spread even further. So time is of the essence there. Because of mutual aid agreements between South Killingly and neighboring cities, they were able to contain the fire before it got out of control. Still, reaction time can vary as it depends on several factors. It all depends on, like I said, the time of day, people's work schedules and stuff like that. So some days you're lucky and have a lot of people around. Other times it's hit or miss. Dombrowski says fires shouldn't get on the level they are in Southern California, but he still warns people about the dangers of open burning in harsh conditions. We shouldn't see anything like that in this neck of the woods, but with winds like this, if something gets started and it's close to a residence, a barn or something like that, then you have other issues you're going to have to contend with. Just dial 911, give the best location that they can. I've seen things happen before where I think, well, I'll be right there. I have a bucket of water, and next thing you know, it's gone. You turn your back for 1 second, or an ember gets away, and you never know where it's going to land. Now, burn brush permits are invalid if the forest fire danger level is high, very high, or extreme, and you're burning within 100 feet of grassland or woodland. Right now, the DEEP says that the forest fire danger level is high for all counties. In Killingly, Jamel Johnson, Fox 61.
Well, just into our newsroom, we have learned a preliminary settlement has been reached after that abrupt closing of all 3 Stone Academy campuses in February of 2023. That left students and teachers shocked with nowhere to go, students facing challenges finishing their education. Attorney General William Tong will be announcing just how much students can expect from the owners of that failed for-profit nursing school. His office tells us the amount would resolve all open legal complaints as long as Hartford Superior Court approves it. Again, we'll be there tomorrow to bring you the full details.
New here at 6, police made an arrest in a Groton crash that killed a 14-year-old. Police say a 17-year-old was arrested today in connection to the crash that happened in October on Fishtown Road. According to police, the 17-year-old was driving the car while intoxicated at the time. Carson Wilson died in the crash. The driver and the 2 other passengers were also injured. The teen faces several charges and will be arraigned at a later date.
Developing right now, only a few more Concord Hills tenants in Hartford still do not have permanent housing, and their temporary housing stops tomorrow. In less than 6 hours, a few families will be homeless, including those with disabilities, young children, and those who've recently been laid off. Connecticut's tenant union, I should say, set up tents inside City Hall today. They said to show what their housing futures hold unless they are given an extension. We talked with Hartford Mayor Arunan Aralampalam a few hours ago, and he said the city has spent $750,000 for that temporary housing, and it can't afford to keep paying for more.
We need these tenants to take the permanent housing solutions and to work with us to try to get to a place where they can be housed permanently.
Now, the mayor also says his office has been calling affordable apartment owners around the city to see if they have availability. Mayor Aralampalam says the city has offered $4,000 to each tenant and will cover moving expenses. As we speak, Fox 61's Kay Pattyfoot is diving into this further before those tenants are forced out. Well, food service workers were on the picket lines outside the New Haven Board of Education building today. The workers are calling for fair wages and respect for the service they provide to New Haven public school children. They want the board to address inequities and meet those demands as union contract negotiations are ongoing. The Board of Education has not commented on the matter.
Addressing behavioral issues in the classroom has challenged educators for decades. For years, the instinct was suspend, expel, and in extreme cases, arrest. But now many schools in Connecticut are taking a restorative approach to reduce harm and correct behavior while keeping kids in school.
The focus of a teacher's job is to educate, but they're also the eyes and ears in the classroom, sounding the alarm when something's not quite right. And when a student's action disrupts learning, the protocol used to be remove them from the room. But new research shows that's not the solution.
When you take an overly punitive approach through suspension, expulsion, or even arrest of some kids for school-based offenses, you lose that connections and kind of the identification of what's the underlying issue.
Dr. Gina Bracey is an associate vice president at Connecticut's Child Health and Development Institute. Her team partners with schools across the state to train teachers and counselors on how to best respond and manage behavioral issues to keep students in the school system and not the juvenile justice system.
There's often something else going on, right? So the acting out, it might be the symptom or kind of the outcome of something else that's happening. And so it's really kind of understanding what is that child going through, what have they experienced.
Fighting the knee-jerk reaction of suspend and expel, and instead choose conversations and correction.
We've seen some great growth in the past few years.
Watertown is one of 26 Connecticut districts participating in the School-Based Diversion Initiative program.
We were already experiencing as a school district some elevated numbers in our suspensions and expulsions. And then parallel to that, we were coming off the heels of COVID, and we were seeing some alarming behaviors that we hadn't seen before.
And the uptick in disruptive behavior after the pandemic was experienced beyond Watertown. The Department of Education reports a statewide jump in suspension rates from 4.9% in 2019 to 7% 4 years later. And while exclusionary discipline still happens in severe cases like those involving weapons, Superintendent Dr. Allison Villanueva says minor classroom disruptions are now addressed at school.
It's better if they're actually in our care, receiving counseling, receiving behavioral mental health support services, and being with somebody that they trust as a trusted adult to be able to talk about things.
She says the added resources free of charge to her district have helped create a network of support for students and staff, something she hopes to continue and build upon in the years ahead.
We really fortified our counseling team as well as just how our teachers interact with our students. And that's how really SBDI has made a difference for us.
Previously, the focus has been on middle and high schools, which receive performance-based incentives for achieving their goals. But this year, a pilot program for elementary schools rolled out to correct behavioral issues early. It's being tested in 3 schools across Watertown and New Britain, and if proven to be effective, will expand to more schools throughout the state. And we should note the Child Health and Development Institute says participating schools have seen a nearly 30% drop in court referrals since implementing the tools of this program.
An emotional day today as the nation bid a final farewell to former President Jimmy Carter. The nation's capital came together in a rare moment of unity to honor the 39th president. Caroline Elliott shows us the state funeral.
Spectators lined up early and braved the cold to say goodbye to America's 39th president. Carter, a former naval officer, engineer, and peanut farmer, died at the age of 100 after 22 months in hospice care. Thursday, he was honored with a state funeral at the National Cathedral, where family, friends, and several high-profile guests, including every living former president, came together to pay their respects.
I miss him, but I take solace in knowing that he and his beloved Rosalind are reunited again.
President Joe Biden delivered the eulogy and remembered him as a humble man of deep faith. Colleagues and family also honored Carter's legacy of selfless leadership and service.
President Carter parked politics at the Oval Office door to do what he believed was the right thing.
2 posthumous eulogies were also delivered. The sons of Carter's late Vice President Walter Mondale and his White House predecessor Gerald Ford, both reading speeches their fathers wrote before they died.
Jimmy Carter and I were rivals, but for the many wonderful years that followed, friendship bonded us.
After the funeral, President Carter was honored at the Baptist Church here, where he taught Sunday school ever since leaving the White House in 1981. In Plains, Georgia, Caroline Elliott, Fox 61.